And the thing about these people who are claiming to be songwriters and composers, no. It's Sunday again, yay! That means it's time for Sunday Coffee, Guitars and Tones. Welcome back, everybody. This is a show where we grab our favorite brew, hang out, and then shoot the breeze about all things guitars, tones, and music. I'm going to cover some pretty serious subjects today, so buckle up for this one. It might take a while. I hope you've all had a really fantastic week. This week's been absolutely amazing. And I have my mocha with me. Yeah, my Star Wars mocha. Look, I've got my Star Wars mug, another one of them. And this one's a pretty special mug, actually, because the lightsabers, they kind of light up because of the heat. Yeah. So I have a mocha in here, and I tried a different coffee today. Actually, I got a packet of the Lavazza, which I mentioned. I was in the supermarket and looked around and it was like, hey, there it is. All right, got to have it. So I need to have a sip of this. So I need to have a Sith of this. You see what I did there? This one's going to be full of Star Wars puns. I'm going to have a lot of fun with it. So, yeah. Cheers, guys. Oh, that is really good. That is really good. All right, let's get into some guitar stuff. So, but before I do that, may the froth be with you. Look, I did warn you. This is going to be a fun episode, isn't it? Anywho, thank you so much, everybody who commented on the last video where I was talking about the thumbs down peoples. Yay! And you know what? I so appreciate all of you who commented, and there was so much love in the comments, and man, I was really touched by it. So honestly, from the bottom of my heart, thank you guys so much. Like I said last time, I wasn't ragging on the people who are giving the thumbs down. I was actually genuinely saying thank you to them because my perspective on it has all changed and stuff. Funnily enough, a weird thing happened because a couple of the people who seem to have been giving me thumbs down were kind of outed. I think they were kind of like a bit peeved that I'd called people out on giving thumbs down. And you know what? There's various reasons why people do it. And you know, some of them are that life is just challenging. And when life gets challenging, you know, people do get angry and upset and stuff like that. I get that. Look, I have lived an extremely challenging life. Honestly, I know you see me smiling every week and on all my videos and stuff, but it's a choice that I make. I've had a really challenging life. Some of the stuff that's happened to me, I would not wish on anybody on the planet, whether I, you know, like them or not. It's just some really horrible times, I want to say. Yeah, I've had some really horrible times over my lifetime. But you know what? I had a turnaround at some point, and I chose to smile every day and feel inspired and to turn up and to keep going. And sometimes it gets really difficult, but I still keep smiling. I still know that, you know what, the sunshine is still there. Even if it's cloudy, the sun is still shining above the clouds. That's my viewpoint. And I do remember where this came from, actually, because I started reading books by Dr. Wayne Dyer many years ago. And I need to get back to that. I haven't read one of his books in a while, and I really want to revisit some of them. But it gave me a different perspective on life. So every day I choose to have a smile on my face, and I choose to find the positive. And when stuff does get challenging, I just keep in the back of my mind that, you know what, this will pass. This too will pass, actually. You know, it's not going to last forever. So anyways, message to everyone to say thank you so much. Much love from me to you guys. And I so do appreciate it. All right, we're going to get onto some guitar stuff today because, hey, that's what we're here for, right? It's supposed to be guitars and tones as well as coffee, right? So, in the news this week or last week or whenever it was, fake guitar players. Yes, it's a thing. So somebody called out a couple of guitar players on their fake guitar playing, and it just got me thinking about the whole thing about fake guitar players. It's an interesting topic. Look, we've been watching our heroes basically mime to their tracks when they're doing music videos for years and years and years. So we've been watching fake guitar playing technically for a long time. But that's quite different from somebody passing off their playing for live playing, and they're actually faking it. And you know, there was a Japanese guitar player, I don't remember his name, but somebody called him out on it and did this whole video about showing where he was doing vibrato and there was no vibrato going on with the fingers and things like that. I find it a really interesting thing because it kind of like depends on why you come onto YouTube, why you watch guitar players. Some people come just for the entertainment of it. They don't really care if the person's actually playing at that time or not. They just want to be entertained. They just want some music. I get that. And that's absolutely fine. If that's what you come onto YouTube for, then yeah, power to you. I know I come onto YouTube in order to learn stuff, so I want to see people actually playing guitar. I do it myself. When you're seeing me do my playthroughs and stuff, you'll sometimes notice in the background that Logic is going and there's a little red bar going across. That's me actually tracking my guitars as I'm recording the video. I like to do it. It also challenges me. It teaches me. The more I've done it, the better I've got at playing guitar and performance as well. When you watch me doing a playthrough in here, I am performing for you guys. Honestly, that's why I bust my moves and stuff. Because, hey, I'm in the moment. I'm actually kind of like I'm playing a gig, you know? That's how I want it to come across. And that's how I feel about it. I've recorded this week, the 2 tracks that I've done, literally within first or second take, I've gotten all of my solos done, which has just been absolute magic. And also when I converted the studio to this bigger space, I started to stand up and perform. That was a whole new thing, you know, and it taught me a different skill. It's made me a much better guitar player. So whilst I get why people do it, you know, to get views and to entertain people and things like that, I also get the other side, which is kind of, you know, if you're going to show it, then show it properly, as in really do it. Rabir Masad actually did a video on this. That's how I found out about this whole kind of thing blowing up at the moment. And it was a really interesting video because he brought up some incredibly good points about the perception that he gives to new guitar players or people who are just learning guitar. You know, just the level that people have to aspire to be at. And I remember this from when I was learning guitar. I can obviously, like, you know, play now. I write music every single day and, you know, I can come up with solos and things like that because just practice. Then when I'm done practicing, more practice, right? But I totally get where he's coming from because if you're new to guitar and you're looking at this and you're thinking, geez, that's what I've got to, you know, accomplish. But look at it this way as well. When I picked up guitar for the first time, I actually was in exactly the same place with my heroes. And the thing that got me to where I was just that absolute desire to get there. And that has to account for something, you know. It can be daunting. It can be very daunting. But you know what? It just takes hard work. It really does. I was not always a good guitar player. You know, there was a time when I picked up the guitar and I could play like maybe 2 chords. long time ago now, but you know, there was a time like that, and that's how we start out. And yeah, I can completely understand where he's coming from with it. And you know, he was even saying about himself, if he was starting out and he was seeing this, then you know, what perception would he have, you know, knowing that the amount of work that he'd have to put in. He's an incredibly good guitar. I mean, you guys know what Rabir's like, right? Absolute genius on guitar. If he feels intimidated by some of these guys, I can only imagine what the kids feel like. But also the flip side of that is you can also look at it as inspiration. You know, I only got to where I am because of the people who inspired me to play, who inspired me to pick up guitar, who inspired me to practice for 3 hours, like when I was young. You know, those people who inspired me to save up money for guitars and amps and keep playing and wanting to be a professional musician and actually giving up a career in something else in order to actually start teaching music, basically pressing the reset button. So, you know, it can have that effect, but look at it from the flip side. Something to aim for. Yeah, it might be difficult. It might be, you know, a lot of hours worth of work, but if you really want it, isn't that worth it? Some food for thought, isn't it? You know, the people who basically decide, you know what, I'm going to give it a shot and I'm going to give it every single ounce of, you know, heart and soul that I have, they're the ones who get there. You can do it. I very much believe that. I do believe that. I didn't always believe that. There was a time when I used to look at people and it would be like, oh man, I need to throw away my gear. Oh my goodness, how good are these people? It can be really, really intimidating. So I do get it. I see both sides of it. Rabia also brought up a really great point about some of these solos looking absolutely impossible to play. You know, if you're a human being. And I get that, you know, maybe these guys are recording sections of the solo, comping it, and then, you know, just miming along to it. I don't know. I don't know for sure because I haven't, you know, delved into it that deeply. But it does remind me of when I started playing guitar because there were guys out there like Eddie Van Halen and Paul Gilbert and Yngwie Malmsteen, Marty Friedman. And you used to listen to their solos and it was like, wow, how the hell am I ever going to be able to play something like that? Think about when Eddie came out with the tapping. Everyone was like, what? What just happened there? How'd you do that? And then they had to go and figure it out and learn it and stuff. Same with Malmsteen, you know, the speed of his playing, the accuracy of his picking and things like that. Paul Gilbert as well, you know. Saw a really interesting video which Marty Friedman had done some years ago. I remember seeing it on YouTube. And he was in a Japanese studio and they were recording a solo for, I can't remember what. But he was laying down this solo, but he was doing it in sections. Yeah, one bar at a time. My mind was completely and utterly blown when I saw that. I was like, he's comping a solo. No way. Marty Friedman. But he can obviously play it live. I think that's where it separates. It makes a difference. Even when I watch Rabia play, man, his solos are just like incredibly cool, you know. I've had times where I've been watching him play and listen to his solos and I'm like, man, I wish I could play like that. It all comes down to practice, you know. If you set your mind to it, then it can be achieved, but you've got to want it that much. You've got to want to put in every single minute of your time in order to learn to play like that. It's what I did with my favorite music and my favorite guitar players and my favorite solos. I just put in the time and I still put in the time, you know? So an interesting, different way to look at it, right? I'd love to hear your perspectives on this because, you know, I don't know if I've made up my mind as to whether it's a good thing, bad thing, neutral thing at the moment. I guess it has a little element of each of those. So yeah, what do you think? I guess this kind of conveniently flows into another aspect of something because I was watching this little news report on YouTube and it was on the BBC channel and it was actually about fake views on AI generated music or fake listens, I should say. I clicked on it because I was just interested to hear about it and apparently what's been happening is people have been creating AI music but then setting bots up to actually listen to that music. So getting millions and millions and millions of views, not legitimate views. So on Spotify or something like that, they'll get millions of listens and then they get the revenue from that. But it's not actually real people doing it. And in the news report, the journalist actually went over to Deezer, which is a French streaming company, and spoke to the people. And there are ways for them to actually detect this. And it was just really interesting. Yeah, I'm not that much into the AI music thing. I have used it a couple of times. I've used Suno Studio to create like just keyboard tracks and stuff. And it's a really, really interesting concept. And it can certainly be a good tool to add to your collection of tools. But from my perspective, the first part has to be write the music. And then if you want to use the AI to actually add little bits and pieces, let's say you can't play keyboards or do a string arrangement, which, I can't. I can do a string arrangement, but it'll take me a week to do the thing. So if AI can do it, then it kind of like adds to what I've already done. But I've written it. That I understand. When people just create music from prompts, then, that's not my thing. I'll be really honest with you. And I've seen people basically claim to be composers and songwriters and stuff. And, and all they're doing is they're putting a prompt into an AI. They're not. My perspective is they are not. I'll say it out loud. Should I say it again? But, from that perspective, if they're basically saying, well, I'm a musician now because I've gone to AI and basically, I've created this music. No, they've not created anything. Creation happens, true creation happens when you basically have a blank sheet of paper and you write lyrics down on it and it comes out of your heart and soul. Music happens like that as well, where you sit with a guitar, then you come up with the riffs, and it comes out of the ether, it comes out of the universe, it downloads into you, and suddenly you're playing something and you're arranging it and you're thinking about the next part. You've just done the intro and you're thinking, what should I do for the verse? And then you come up with another part. That's true creation as far as I'm concerned. What AI does is it's just listening to all of the stuff that's already been done and uploaded into its servers, and then basically just cherry picking from that and saying, here you go, there's the track in the style that you've just asked for. So the person who's putting the prompt in, they're just good at doing prompts. That doesn't make somebody a songwriter. And there are channels out there. I've seen channels out there which have like hundreds of thousands of subs and views. And it's like complete AI music. It is absolutely nuts. And the thing about these people who are claiming to be songwriters and composers, no. For me, absolutely not. It's like they're creating fake music and they're kind of creating it in a fake way as well. Does that make sense? Kind of ties into the whole fake guitar thing, doesn't it? It's like fake guitar, now we have fake music, and then we have fake composers and fake songwriters, and where's it going to end? For me, the whole concept of like AI music is kind of like, somebody hiring me to write a song and then perform it as well, do all the guitar parts and stuff and sing on it, etc., etc. And then them putting it on their own social media or their YouTube and saying, hey, look at the song that I created. Well, you didn't create anything. How's that different from how the AI stuff does it? Interesting, right? But hey, maybe I'm just an old man now. A grouchy old man with a cup of Star Wars coffee. Anyways, let's get on to some guitar stuff, shall we? I had a really awesome question. It says, Jay, I'd like to hear about your 20 or 40-year guitar journey and the guitars you picked up along the way, please. That's a really awesome question. Thank you so much for the question, by the way. And, if I went through every single guitar that I picked up, this would probably be like a, 30-hour video or something. So rather than doing that, what I'm going to talk about is how I actually became a guitar collector, because you do see a lot of gear in my studio. And I thought it'd be a little bit more interesting to talk about how, I've gotten to the point where I have all of this gear, because you know what? The majority of the gear here, I've bought myself. I do get sent some stuff now and then, but that's only sometimes. Most of the stuff in here, like all of the amps that I have, most of the pedals that I have, most of the guitars that I have, this guitar that I'm holding, etc., etc. I bought it with my own money. So how did I do it? Well, this takes time. When somebody sees my collection of gear, they're looking at years and years and years and years and years worth of collection. And what I have a tendency of doing is hoarding stuff. Yes, I said that out loud. I never sell stuff. Well, I do, but very, very, very rarely. I'm really lazy with selling stuff. I actually should, but I don't. What I end up doing is basically just keeping stuff. And I actually have an overflow room in the house. It makes my wife mad as hell that I have that room and I have so much gear in there. But I do, because I actually have more gear than I have in the studio. So how do I manage to get all of this stuff? Well, what I do is I basically set up a separate bank account where I squirrel money away. So every month when I get paid for doing whatever I'm doing, I'll take a small proportion of that money and I'll put it in that bank account, which I never touch. I basically only use it when I need to buy a piece of gear. So over time, what happens is, there's little bits and pieces, whether it's $10 or $20 or $50 or $100 or whatever's coming in, which I'm putting in there, it accumulates. So I have money for another piece of gear, and then I invest in a piece of gear which I want to get. And, as my business has grown, the fund basically has just gotten bigger and it replenishes quicker. So I'm able to kind of, invest in more gear and get bits and pieces. Do I spend thousands and thousands and thousands all the time? No, I don't actually. I don't. There have been times when I've spent a good amount of money on a piece of gear, but most of the time it's maybe a couple $100 or something like that. So it's doable. And a lot of the guitars that I own, like this one here, this is a parts caster. I refinished this one sometime last year to be my kind of Dan Huff's tribute guitar. It's a fantastic guitar. And, this costs maybe a couple $100 to build, and all the parts and stuff, maybe a little bit more, But you get the idea that this isn't a massively expensive, this isn't like a $7,000 guitar or anything. So it's doable. And that's how I do it. So that's how I've kind of like built up a collection over the last probably 20 years. I've been playing for almost 40 years now. And probably over the last 20 odd years, I've basically, built up the collection. And certainly it's kind of like accelerated over time as I've worked in music more and more. And, the business has become a little bit more successful. So I hope that answers your question. I already had another question as well. So the next question was, love the fretboard. How does one get one like that? Is it available at Sterling Music Man Guitars? Or Sterling Music Man Guitars? Because I was playing my Sterling and it had these inlays on it as well. These, they're my custom Fretlook inlays. I love these. My friend Raphael over at Fretlook actually did these for me, and they are so cool. They're my Chakra Series signature inlay stickers. And I actually messaged Raphael earlier today to say, hey man, can we make these available to folks, because, they really do dig them. And I dig them a lot as well. I really love to put them on my guitars because, hey, first of all, it personalizes them and they just look super cool. So yeah, these inlays, hopefully, fingers crossed, they will be available at some point. If you would be interested in getting these, leave a comment and let me know. And, maybe I'll feed it back to Raphael and we'll figure something out, because it'd be pretty cool to do, right? Yeah, I think so anyways. I think that'll do it for today, right? Thank you so much for the questions. If you guys have any questions, then please do leave them in the comment section below. And I'm always happy to answer your questions and kind of, interact with you guys. And I would love to know your thoughts on the fake guitar playing thing. What do you think about that? And also the AI music thing, which is kind of fake music as well. And fake composers and fake kind of songwriters and What's the world coming to? Will we be drinking fake coffee at some point? Well, I'm drinking decaf at the moment. And so some people might actually say, Jay, you are drinking fake coffee. But anyways, thank you so much for hanging with me today. I love doing this, and I'm sure you have a fun time as well. Hopefully you do anyways. Have a great Sunday. Enjoy your coffees. Cheers to you guys. And I will see you next week with another one. But in the meantime, I will see you with a couple of videos during the week. Yeah, we're getting a fractal video on Tuesday. You want to tune in for that? John Sykes tone. Yep. Yep. And as soon as my guitar turns up, I'm going to go all Wolverine on it. And I'm going to do an unboxing. Because, yeah, that one needs it. Have a wonderful Sunday, guys and girls, and I'll see you on the channel really soon. All right, bye for now.